Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healing and Freedom Journey. Mark DeJesus here. I am your brother from another mother, bringing you insights along the path and along the way of your journey that can help equip you and empower you. I'm all about mental, emotional, and relationship health, and if you are too, then you've come to a great place. This broadcast is very near and dear to my heart, as everyone is. I talk a lot about what are things, mindsets to do, and experiences to engage, and things that we need to understand as we're walking a journey of experiencing healing in our lives, also freedom, transformation, where things begin to become learned in our lives and processed, and we do spend a lot of time here on those areas. Well, today what I want to do is I want to get personal, as I do so much in my materials, is share with you some things I stopped doing. And these are not like impossible things to stop. They're things that are actually burden lifters, many of them. They are things that you can begin taking into mind in your own journey. And I'm curious which ones stick out to you. So please let me know in the comments. So today I want to share with you 10 things that I stopped doing that dramatically improved my mental health. Now, when I say stop, it wasn't necessarily like I just decided to stop and then everything changed and everything was better. Everything's process oriented. Everything is a journey. You make decisions, you start moving in new directions, and over time, you start to see what helped. And I did some reflection, and I found some of these areas to be very, very important and very freeing. Because in our journey, we recognize we're carrying a lot of stuff we don't need to be carrying. And we engage things we don't need to be engaging. We fuss over things we don't need to be fussing over. So a big part of transformative work is learning things to let go of. And so that's what this is going to get into a bit here today. So let me get right into this with number one. Number one in this process is I constantly had this battleground of compulsively checking my emotions and my feelings. And one of the top things that has really helped me is to stop constantly checking and examining how I'm feeling. Now, it's interesting because I spend my days and my hours and my weeks teaching on helping people deal with their emotions. And many people, they don't deal with their emotions at all. And they could use some checking and understanding and working through and analyzing their emotions. But for the people that are regular watchers and listeners to these broadcasts, you're probably like me, where you check your feelings and emotions way too much. I'm talking about compulsive checking. How am I feeling? How am I doing? You wake up, you're checking throughout the day, constant introspection, and then interrogation of what you're feeling. So for me, as soon as I'd wake up in the morning, I'm checking the weather. I don't mean the real literal weather, which that's fine to do that. I'm talking about checking the weather of how I'm feeling. How's everything feeling? And then I would let that be a gauge of how I then engaged my day versus just slowly moving throughout my day, looking forward, keeping my head up, and then maybe a few times throughout the day, just checking in. How are things going? How am I doing? But what happens is, for many of us, we obsessively, compulsively are checking and analyzing our emotions, and it keeps empowering and inflaming our battlegrounds. We go, is that battleground still there? Is that thought still there? Years ago when I was pastoring, this is where the change happened for me. I was reading in Luke's gospel where Jesus said, no one, in Luke 9:62, he said, no one having put their hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. Now, many of you might spiral and go, oh, that means I'm out of the kingdom of God. No. When insight arrived to me, and this is why we need to understand how to read the Bible for insight, where it empowers us, it awakens us to something that sets us free, brings change, transformation, and it brings, like Paul said, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened. And I saw it here. I keep stepping forward with the plow, but I keep turning back. I keep checking how I'm feeling. Keep checking how is that? Am I still depressed? Am I still having that intrusive thought? Am I still having that? And so when that light bulb went off, it was actually, I think it was like a Saturday night or Sunday morning, and this light bulb went off. I shared it with the church. And I exhorted them in it. And many of them just the light bulbs went off for them too. And they started getting freedom too, because they realized they were spending a lot of their days checking, incessantly checking. What happens is when you check for it, then what you're actually doing is stimulating that thought. So you go, is that intrusive thought there? You're looking for it, which then is now stimulating it. And what you stimulate in thought by checking or compulsive analyzing stuff just makes that thought grow more and more, rather than I'm keeping my eyes up and I'm moving forward. This is a big deal for me, and I think it's going to be a big deal for many of you as well too. The second one is something that I continually practice, is I stopped increasing my speed and increasing pressure during stress, meaning that something difficult or challenging. Maybe it's a situation I'm dealing with in my work, or something in relationship, friendship, family, finances, or whatever it is. There's this tendency whenever something happens, our stress response kicks in and we speed up even more. Many of us live such speedy lives anyways, and we increase pressure. Like, I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. And so I've learned in my life that we often have to live counterintuitive as believers, counterintuitive to our default setting and move into our new setting. And that means stay slow, don't take on pressure. Even though you feel stress, don't feed it with extra pressure. And so I find myself on a daily basis practicing taking a deep breath, breathing to slow down. Breathing is a great way to physiologically tell your whole self that, hey, slow down one step at a time, and keep it slow and just walk through, because you actually help your focus and you help your energy be used the way that it needs to. But I had to learn to go against the flow, because the typical flow is speed up, race, I got to get things done. I got to deal with this, No, I don't have to deal with it in that way. I can deal with this, but let me deal with this one step at a time. It gives me the most room also for learning what I need to learn as well. Number 3, which I find to be so important, is I stopped getting lost anywhere else in my mind that is not here. What I mean is I have learned to treasure and value the beauty of being present in the moment. One of the most powerful places for mental health is being here right now. And so I often ask myself the question, am I here? I remember when God in the scriptures came to Elijah, when Elijah was spinning out over the Jezebelic effect that he was under, and he was in deep depression and pity and discouragement. And God asked him the question, Elijah, what are you doing here? And I think that question can apply twofold, meaning what are you doing here in this location? And what are you doing here in this environment of thinking that you're in, right? And sometimes we have to ask ourselves this question, what am I doing here? And a lot of times what we're finding is we're not present. We're not in the moment. And so what I've found is so helpful is to teach myself and train on a regular basis. And this is helpful for rumination. This is helpful for worry. This is even helpful for attention issues, even ADHD struggles, of practicing gently being here in the present moment with what's in front of me, one thing at a time. This also means don't get lost in the past. Now, it's helpful to review the past, but not to obsess over the past. You have a rear view mirror. It's there. It's needed to check on things, to be aware. We need to be aware of how the past affects our present, but it's not our main focus. We also get lost in the future. Boy, I spent most of my life scanning the future for any disturbance, scanning the future for any potential thing to worry about. Then I would latch onto it, and I would get lost in that, never being in the moment, never enjoying the moment. It would keep me in these constant obsessive tangents. Or maybe I get lost in where I think I should be. And some of you get lost in where you think you should be in life or things like that. And you're not here facing what you need to face right in front of you. Many times we're somewhere else in our minds of, I should be over here in life. I should be there. Instead, I began to embrace, I am right where I need to be. Listen to this. I am right where I need to be to learn what I need to learn. When you embrace that, now you start taking your steps. Many of you get lost in certain escapes, or maybe you get lost in daydreams, or you get lost in fantasy, or you get lost in things that cause you to just escape. And it's not letting you be right where you need to be, right? Because I need to connect to the here and now. Why? Because number one, there's beautiful things right here and right now in front of me. And when I focus in on it, I get to extract the beauty of enjoyment. Two, there's things to learn and face and work through and grow in right here, right now in front of me. And many of us are lost in other areas, and they're distractions that are not allowing us to be right in the moment to face what's in front of us, which is something that Jesus taught. It says, don't even give all that thought for tomorrow. Today, there's sufficient today things that you need to be aware of and work through. The fourth thing I found to be something to stop. And this is a lot of what I cover in my material, God Loves Me and I Love Myself, which was a game-changing insight for my journey, and many people who read that book and get a hold of that materials, is I stopped being critical of myself, especially when I'm down. Now, overall, I've learned and I teach on how to live in the how God receives us in his love, how his patience and kindness works in our journey, and how that operates in our life. But the truth is, the last thing that you need when you're down and having a rough time, is another boot stepping on your head, pushing it down even further. And so I found that when I would have a bad day or be going through a bad season, that then I would add to it by shaming myself, being hard on myself, and just letting thoughts that were self-destructive, self-beating, self-hating, self-rejecting. And it was life-changing to me that not only am I going to be kinder to myself, but I'm going to connect to extra kindness, patience, and compassion on those rough days, because then that leads to what I need to pay attention to take steps forward. I'm not talking about feeling sorry for yourself or just having pity or wallowing in it. I'm talking kind nurture that then says it's okay that you're not okay. But love helps me to say, now what? What's needed for the next step in my life? Now, for me, this was what I'm going to share here. Number 5 was big, whether you relate to this or not. Is I had this problematic thing in my life because I had so much like achievement, or this is where I should be, or performance or perfectionistic influences in my life. I would constantly fuss over, obsessing over what I'm doing wrong or what I should be doing that I'm not doing. What I'm doing wrong was just constantly like examining, with this thing I got to fix, or maybe trying to find a sin issue, or trying to find, why am I in this situation? What did I do wrong? Or I'd be like, I'm in this difficult time because I'm not doing something. And because I'm not doing something, that's causing this. A lot of cause and effect kind of thinking that didn't allow me to walk through my journey with grace. So this gave rise to condemnation. When you're constantly fussing over, what am I doing wrong? Or what should I be doing that I'm not doing? And you're bouncing between the two. It gives a microphone, or really gives a megaphone, to the accuser who will condemn you. Listen, if you want to put a microphone up and say, what's wrong with me? The enemy will take it and tell you 100 things right now that you could look at and go, well, yeah, maybe there's some truth to that. Any of us could be accused of things that are wrong in us. This is not our basis of righteousness to begin with. This is not following the accuser's trail is not going to bring about freedom and transformation. Jesus sets the foundation of righteousness in our lives, and he takes us on a journey, and we learn in the journey, and we learn through gracious illumination of truth. What does truth do? Sets us free. And many people confuse truth for accusations that they're listening to. They grab onto it and they stay bound in cycles, and they think they're listening to the truth, but they're actually listening to a lot of distortions. So I found myself seeing dramatic change when I turn to, what is the compassionate grace of God saying to me right now? And it led me back to the statement I said earlier. Okay, I'm right where I need to be right now to learn what I need to learn. So it caused me to embrace the seasons that I'm in. So that leads me to embrace the season I'm in now and not fuss over where I think I should be. And it started to in years where I felt so stuck, and at times felt like God left me hanging. And why'd you put these passions in my life, or these giftings or these things? And I feel like it's just, and I would start self-rejecting, and I'd loathe, and I'd be angry at God. Instead, I'd embrace where I was. Okay, God, I'm in a learning journey. And if you have something that you want to bring that's corrective, you know how to bring it to my attention, but I'm not going to sit here fussing over this guilt, shame, accusation, condemnation stuff, because it's just keeping me bound. Another thing I would do within this is this: what am I doing wrong? Is this checking, God, are me and you okay? God, are me and you okay? This is really fueled by a rejection root, because most of our battlegrounds go back to a rejection root. And once that gets fed, we're constantly checking separation feelings and disconnection, and then we're trying to fix it because we're performance driven in how we relate to God. And it caused me to get some more freedom in that and go, God, you love me, you hear. Even at times where I feel like the connection isn't as great, I'm going to trust you're here, and I'm going to keep walking forward. Boy, that was so helpful, of not checking that. Are we okay, God? Are we okay, God? Are we okay, God? And many of you could use some freedom in stepping through that. Number 6 is compulsively focusing on fixing myself versus learning to be loved and live in love. Now, when many people first hear this, they may hear, oh, that's compromise. And we're just saying, oh, just love people and don't deal with things, or just love you. They misunderstand the power of love. And they misunderstand the power of love and grace relationship, of how God draws us in. We are changed through the image of Jesus Christ and encountering the image of Jesus Christ. But you're not going to encounter Jesus Christ from a distance. You're not going to encounter the Father from a distance. And many of us are trying to encounter God from a distance to experience change. No, what you need is connection with God. Out of that, you are changed. And connection is brought about by love. God receives you in. The work of Jesus Christ brings you near. I spent most of my life trying to fix myself compulsively, perfectionistically, every day, looking at maybe it's this I got to do, maybe it's this thing I got to do. And many of you do this in a lot of avenues, whether maybe you're trying to, with nutrition or supplements, or maybe this thing I need to do, maybe it's this counselor I need to go to, maybe it's this book I got to read. And you're tossed between all these things because you're constantly fussing over trying to fix yourself, when what you really need is learning to be loved and experience love, because out of that, the truth that you need in stages of your journey begins to illuminate and show up, to grab onto, to set free. And most of us live in a condemning cycle, and we're trying to, out of works, fix ourselves with the hopes that maybe we'll be loved someday. There's a whole series of videos I could do just on that, and actually have done. You can check out, especially when it comes to what is love and what does it look like to embrace the kindness and compassionate work of God, and how he sees us and how he works and operates with us. Number 7 is I stopped catastrophizing. I had a real tendency to catastrophize things. And I'd see an issue, and it's like, oh, if I don't deal with this, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. And next thing you know, I'm like creating this whole trail down of where things are going to go. And I had to learn to see things as they are, not worse than they are. And catastrophizing is a bad habit for people, especially if they're prone to obsessive compulsive tendencies, or have a lot of anxiety that they struggle with, or where depression kind of debilitates them. Their alarm system is constantly going on. Well, this is terrible. Something difficult happens, and then the dominoes hit. And you know what I realize? That when I catastrophize, it's unloving, it's anti-love to myself. Mark, don't do that. You don't need to do that. Because now you're getting lost in some dreaded tragedy you think is going to happen. Nope. Get back here to what is here, what's in front of you, see it for what it is, not worsen it. So, like many of you, I had to learn to recalibrate my alarm system. Because when you have OCD, perfectionism, anxiety issues, panic attack issues, your alarm system gets off. It triggers easily. And so in learning to recalibrate your alarm system, love is a big part of it, of nurturing. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You practice in the midst of storms, not reacting to every alarm, right? Not first, like if my fire alarm went off, oh no, right? I would be, going over, what do we got to deal with, right? But then I go, there's nothing there. Something's off in this. And then I go off again. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. I'm starting to see that something's off here. We need to get it recalibrated. And God's love and his nurture recalibrates us when we don't have to be alarmed. And Jesus said, you're going to have difficult times, but you don't have to lose hope, and you don't have to be living in fear. There is a better way. And so if your alarm system is constantly going off over thoughts and things you're going through, you're probably catastrophizing. And you're going to need to learn to practice a more grounded response. Sobriety is important. Sobriety is important. We see it for how we need to, not worse than it is, not just, avoiding it. And I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. It's like, okay, I see it, but I'm not overreacting to it. Big, big change for my journey. Number 8 is a nasty one. Comparing myself to you or someone else or anyone else. It is a damaging habit to our mental, emotional health, to our relational world. It's an anti-love. It's an unloving act. It's not loving to yourself when you compare yourself in either way. When I say either way, meaning you compare yourself to someone, you go, well, at least I'm not that bad, right? And sometimes we do that. I'm going through really, bad depression, but they're going through terrible, right? There's like this subtle kind of, maybe we feel better about ourselves by seeing somebody who's worse. And I get it. I understand it. Sometimes that puts it in perspective. Like, what am I complaining about? There's people that go through. But even then, that can be an anti-loving response to yourself because everybody's going through different things. And comparing yourself, whether yours is worse or yours is better, sometimes people even write to me and they want to compare their journey to mine. Did you go through such and such? And whether I have an answer, yes or no to that, it doesn't matter because what they're thinking is, well, my what I'm going through is really crazy. It's really bad. Did you go through it? Right? And we're constantly searching for someone else to go through it. Now, please understand me. It's very relieving to know that someone else is going through what we're going through. The Bible says it. In Peter's writings, he said, don't think that these things that come against you are some rare things, but there are other believers going through the same things all around the world. So whatever your battle is, you have to understand, many, many other people are going through the same thing. Oh, no, Mark, no, you don't know. No, what I'm going through is, okay. And I used to believe that. Oh, no, what I'm going through is just like really, really unique. No, there's other people around the world that are going through the same thing. And every person I have coached and emailed one-on-one, had interactions with, I go, there's like 100 other people I've met at the same battleground as you. It'd be great to get them all in the same room, right? So then there's times I found when I was low that I would then kind of compare myself to other people. Maybe if I was feeling like, I'm writing books and I don't feel like my books are doing that well, and I don't feel like I'm a great writer, and I'm just feeling down and low about it, right? Instead of just being kind to myself and going, I'm learning, I'm on my journey, and I have a way of writing and communicating. And I start looking at other authors that are doing well. Like, look at them, they get all this favor and they get all this and that, right? It's unfair to me to do that. It's actually unfair to them to do that too. Because we often look at other people and go, oh, look at their battle. They haven't had to go through what I have had to go through. You don't know what people have gone through. You don't know someone's full story. And a lot of times when we compare, we are comparing our backstage world with someone else's front stage appearance. And be aware, we live in a world where everyone's cultivating their front stage look. And they are curating a nice presentation of how things look. Beware, don't be deceived. Everyone's got battles. Everyone's got things that they're going through and facing. Now, they may have different pathways that go on, but everyone's got things that they're struggling with. Now, comparison is an automatic peace stealer. It's a joy thief. And when you're down, especially when you're down and out, don't let yourself use comparison to try to either make yourself feel better or let it make you feel worse. Now, if you see someone's journey that encourages you and inspires you, that's great. That's wonderful. Or somebody you look up to that's like, I appreciate their journey. Now, keep in mind, we're all human beings. We all have problems. We all have stuff that we're going through. So I found this comparison thing to be a trap, to just be aware of it and to value my journey. because each of you have a path you're on. Don't let comparison be something that steals the beauty of your journey, what you're learning and what you're embracing. Number 9, and the last 2 have to do with how I relate to other people, is carrying people's burdens for them. I have in my life engaged a world of making a difference in people's lives. But the thing about compassion work is that you can very easily take on the burden of other people in an ungodly way. And I hope in the future to teach a lot to pastors, compassion workers, counselors, therapists, the importance. We have got to know what's our responsibility and what's not, because many of us are carrying the weight of people's problems, people's battlegrounds. So I had to stop carrying people's burdens for them. And that means my family line. That means people in church when I was pastoring, I would carry everything. And what am I doing wrong? And what do I need to do better? Maybe I should call this, maybe I should do this. And it makes us very compulsive in our false responsibility and what we feel we're supposed to carry. And this has been very freeing because it frees me up to actually now be a brother to love people versus living out of constant guilt, out of constant codependency, false burden bearing, and all that kind of stuff. This has been an amazing step of freedom. And I think you may find a lot of benefit too. What are you carrying from other people that you don't need to carry? God's not called you to carry it. And lastly, when I stopped controlling what people think of me, number 10, it's very, very freeing. And that includes you as a listener. There's a lot of things that we do to try to control what people think about us. If you think a certain way, we feel like we got to fix how they're thinking. We got to rebuttal or maybe got to say something. I had this mindset that needed some healing. The mindset was this: well, I speak and share my thoughts and feelings well. If there's an issue, if I just sit down with someone and explain it, everything will be better. And I realized it's not that simple. And I found a lot of torment I was under because people misunderstood me. They misunderstood what I said, misunderstood my motives, misunderstood, how I live or whatever. And I would fight it, try to fix it, maybe avoid people thinking that way about how I presented myself. And I actually found a lot of freedom in just simply embracing it. If they don't like me, I'll accept that. If they disagree with me, I accept that. If they misrepresent what I'm saying, okay. Then it releases me from having to fix all these things, and it helps me to remain focused on my journey, what I'm learning and what I'm sharing. Because what I'm sharing with you has come out of decades of blood, sweat, and tears. And then times people show up and misrepresent or misunderstand something in my life, or I have to go, okay, all right. And this will help a lot of you, even in your online interactions, of just realizing not everybody's going to get you. Not everybody's going to understand you. And that's okay. There's a lot of freedom. Which of these 10 was helpful for you? If this video was blessing, would you do me a favor? Click that like and subscribe button. I'd love to get to know a little bit more of your journey by going to markdejesus.com. Click on the email subscription. You get a free downloadable book today on experiencing God's love as your Father. And then you'll be on my mailing list. And at some point, you'll get an email from me that says, I want to hear a little bit about your journey and some of the things that you wrestle with and you struggle with, because it helps me as I'm putting together content. If this broadcast has blessed you, would you consider a one-time donation of any amount by going to markdejesus.com, click on that donate button, or you can be a regular supporter in any amount that you wish or choose to support this ministry. Either way, I am thrilled to be your brother from another mother, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. But in the meantime, I'm out.